The letter arrived on a Tuesday, slipped under my apartment door like a secret I wasn't ready to uncover. "Congratulations, Ethan Caldwell." It read. "You've been cast as the perfect boyfriend for Love on Display." My heart stopped, partly from shock, mostly from the absurdity of a broke barista from Syracuse landing a role on a reality TV show. I wasn't an actor. At 28, I was just a guy with a degree in literature, drowning in student loans and pouring overpriced lattes for hipsters. But when my friend Mia, a production assistant, dared me to audition for this new show, I thought, why not? It was a lark, a chance to escape my dead-end routine. The casting call wanted authentic, charismatic everyman to play the ideal partner for a mystery bachelor on a glitzy dating show. I sent in a goofy video of myself reciting Shakespeare to my cat, expecting nothing. Now, here I was, staring at a contract promising $10,000 just to fake a romance for 8 weeks. The catch? I had to convince the world, and the bachelor, that I was head over heels in love. No problem, I thought. I'd read enough novels to fake a grand gesture. But when I met Javier Ruiz, everything changed. The set was a sprawling estate in the Hudson Valley, all manicured lawns and ivy-covered stone. I arrived in jeans and a faded flannel, feeling like a fish out of water among the crew's frenetic energy and the other contestants' polished smiles. There were 5 of us, all vying for the role of Javier's perfect match on camera. The premise was simple. Javier, a 30-year-old architect from Miami with a jawline that could cut glass, was the bachelor. We were the suitors, competing to win his heart through staged dates and heartfelt confessions. All scripted, of course. The winner, chosen by audience votes, would walk away with a cash prize and a fake relationship to milk for clout. Javier was nothing like I expected. When he stepped out to greet us, the air shifted. He was tall, with warm bronze skin and hazel eyes that seemed to see right through you. His smile was hesitant, almost shy, but when he shook my hand, his grip lingered a beat too long. "Ethan, right?" he said, his voice low and accented with a hint of Miami's rhythm. I nodded, suddenly tongue-tied, my carefully rehearsed charm evaporating. The first week was a blur of staged moments. We kayaked on a lake, laughing as I nearly tipped us over. We cooked dinner in a gleaming kitchen, where Javier teased me for burning the garlic bread. The cameras ate it up, and I played my part. The earnest, slightly clumsy guy who was falling for the bachelor. But off camera, something real was simmering. During breaks, Javier would find me, asking about my life in Syracuse, my favorite books, my dreams. He listened like he actually cared, his eyes crinkling when I rambled about The Great Gatsby. "You're different," he said once, leaning close as we sat on the porch, the crew packing up for the night. "You don't act like this is just a game." I wanted to tell him it wasn't. That every time he smiled, my chest tightened in a way that wasn't scripted. But the contract loomed over me, no real feelings. This was a job. Falling for Javier would be a disaster, especially since he was probably just playing the part, too. By week 3, the competition was heating up. The other contestants were ruthless. Marcus, a personal trainer from LA, oozed confidence and kept stealing Javier's attention with shirtless stunts. Lila, a non-binary influencer from Chicago, had a knack for tearful monologues that won the audience's hearts. I was slipping in the polls, and the producers weren't happy. "More passion, Ethan," they barked during a confessional. "Sell the romance." So I did. I wrote Javier a poem, reciting it under a willow tree as the cameras rolled. His eyes softened, and when he hugged me, the crew cheered. But later, alone in the garden, he whispered, "Did you mean it?" I froze. The poem was half scripted, half truth. I wanted to say yes, to tell him how his laugh made my days brighter, how his quiet strength made me feel safe. Instead, I deflected. "Just keeping it real for the fans," I said, forcing a grin. His face fell, just for a second, before he nodded and walked away. That night, I couldn't sleep. The estate was quiet, the other contestants snoring in their bunks. I slipped outside, sitting by the lake, the water reflecting 1,000 stars. Footsteps crunched behind me, and there was Javier, a blanket draped over his shoulders. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked, sitting beside me. We talked for hours, about his childhood in Miami, his mom's Cuban cooking, my fear of never amounting to anything. When he reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. His fingers were warm, steady, real. "I don't know what's happening," he murmured, his voice raw. "But this doesn't feel like a show anymore." My heart pounded. I wanted to kiss him, to hell with the cameras and the contract. But doubt crept in. Was he acting? Was this just another scene? Before I could decide, a producer's voice cut through the darkness, calling us back. The moment shattered. The next day, the producers threw a curveball, a truth challenge. We had to answer personal questions on live TV, no scripts allowed. The questions started innocently, favorite foods, childhood pets, but then they got brutal. "Ethan," the host purred, "have you ever been in love?" The camera zoomed in, and I felt Javier's eyes on me. My mind raced. I'd never been in love, not really. But sitting there, with Javier's gaze burning into me, I realized I was dangerously close. "Not yet," I said, my voice barely steady. "But I'm starting to understand what it feels like." The audience ate it up, but Javier's expression was unreadable. Later, he cornered me in the hallway. "What did you mean out there?" he asked, his voice tight. I wanted to tell him everything, that I was falling for him, that I was terrified of what it meant. But Marcus interrupted, pulling Javier away for a staged date. I was left alone, my confession stuck in my throat. By the end of week 4, the show was a pressure cooker. The producers pitted us against each other, editing clips to make me look aloof, Marcus aggressive, Lila manipulative. Javier was fraying under the spotlight, his smiles less frequent. I caught him one night, sitting alone in the library, his head in his hands. "I didn't sign up for this," he said when I sat beside him. "I thought it'd be fun, but it's tearing me apart." I reached for him, my hand on his shoulder, and for a moment, we just sat there, the weight of the show pressing down on us. "I'm here," I said softly. "Not for the cameras. For you." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, and I knew I'd crossed a line. But I didn't care. Something was growing between us, something the producers couldn't script, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could pretend it wasn't real. Week 5 was chaos. The producers, sensing the audience's obsession with drama, doubled down. They staged a jealousy challenge, forcing us to watch Javier go on intimate one-on-one dates with each contestant. I sat in the viewing room, my stomach twisting as Marcus draped an arm around Javier during a candlelit dinner, whispering something that made Javier laugh. Lila's date was a moonlit hike, their conversation so earnest it felt like a betrayal. I knew it was fake, but every smile Javier gave them cut deeper than I expected. When it was my turn, the producers sent us to a vineyard, the rolling hills of the Hudson Valley glowing under a late afternoon sun. The cameras followed as we wandered through the vines, sipping wine and trading stories. Javier was quieter than usual, his usual warmth tempered by something heavy. "You okay?" I asked, away from the mics. He hesitated, then said, "This show, it's messing with my head. I don't know what's real anymore." His eyes met mine, and I saw the same fear I felt, that what we had was just another plot twist. I wanted to reassure him, but the cameras were rolling. So I played the part, toasting to new beginnings and flashing a smile that felt hollow. But when we sat on a blanket, the crew distracted by a technical glitch, I took a chance. "Javier," I said, my voice low, "whatever happens this, you and me, it's real to me." His breath caught, and for a moment, I thought he'd kiss me. But the director yelled, "Action!" and the moment was gone. Back at the estate, The tension was palpable. Marcus was gunning for the win, his every move calculated to charm the audience. Lila, meanwhile, was unraveling, their confessional rants about the pressure going viral. I stayed under the radar, focusing on Javier. We stole moments whenever we could, brushing hands in the kitchen, sharing quiet laughs during downtime. One night, after a grueling 12-hour shoot, we ended up on the roof, the stars above us brighter than the studio lights. "Why'd you sign up for this?" I asked, lying back on the cool tiles. Javier sighed, his hands behind his head. "I thought it'd be a laugh, you know? A way to get my name out there as an architect." But now he turned to me, his face half lit by moonlight. Now I'm in too deep. My heart raced. I wanted to ask what he meant, but fear stopped me. Instead, I said, "I'm glad you're here." He smiled, soft and unguarded, and I felt like I could breathe again. But the show didn't let us rest. The next challenge was a family meeting, where we had to introduce Javier to our loved ones via video call. My mom, a no-nonsense nurse from Syracuse, was skeptical. "You're not falling for this guy, are you?" she asked, her voice crackling through the screen. I laughed it off, but her words hit hard. Was I falling? And if I was, what did that mean when the cameras stopped rolling? Javier's call was different. His mom, a vibrant woman with his same hazel eyes, spoke in rapid Spanish, then switched to English to say, "Mijo, I just want you to be happy. Follow your heart." Javier's jaw tightened, and I saw the weight of her words settle on him. Later, he told me she'd always known he was gay, but never pushed him to come out. "This show was supposed to be a way to do it," he said. "But it's so much more complicated now." Week 6 brought the elimination round. One of us would be cut, and the audience's votes were merciless. I was slipping in the polls, my aloof edit making me look distant. Marcus was the frontrunner, his charm undeniable, while Lila's emotional outbursts kept them in the spotlight. I didn't care about winning anymore. I just wanted more time with Javier. But the producers had other plans. They pulled me aside, offering a deal. Play up the drama, stir jealousy, and they'd ensure I stayed. I refused. I wasn't going to manipulate Javier for a paycheck. The night of the elimination, we gathered in the grand hall, Javier standing under a chandelier that cast shadows across his face. He looked exhausted, his usual confidence replaced by something raw. When the host called my name, my heart sank. I was in the bottom too. Javier's eyes met mine, and I saw panic flicker in them. "Ethan," he said, stepping forward, his voice unsteady. "I need you to stay." The crowd gasped, the cameras zoomed in, but his words weren't for them. They were for me. I stayed. Lila was sent home, their exit tearful but dignified. That night, Javier found me in the garden, his hands shaking. "I couldn't let you go," he said. "Not yet." I wanted to tell him I felt the same, that I was falling harder every day. But the cameras were never far, and the contract still bound me. So I just nodded, my throat tight, and let him pull me into a hug that felt like a promise. The next day, the producers pushed harder. They wanted a love triangle, pitting me against Marcus for Javier's affection. I hated it, but Marcus leaned into it, staging a heated argument with me during a group date. "You're not even trying," he sneered, the cameras eating up every word. Javier deserves someone who's all in. I wanted to scream that I was all in, that this wasn't a game to me anymore. But I held back, knowing any outburst would be twisted for ratings. Javier, caught in the middle, was fraying. During a quiet moment, he pulled me aside. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I'm supposed to choose, but I don't want to hurt anyone." I took his hand, the cameras nowhere in sight. "Then don't choose," I said. "Not for them. For you." He looked at me, his eyes searching, and I knew we were standing on the edge of something real, something the show couldn't touch. But the show always found a way to intrude. That night, a leaked clip surfaced online, showing Javier and me on the roof. our conversation too intimate for the producer's liking. The internet exploded, fans shipping us, others accusing us of faking it for attention. The pressure was crushing, and I started to wonder if Javier felt the same pull I did, or if I was just another pawn in his game. Week 7 was a breaking point. The producers, thrilled by the online buzz, leaned into the Ethan and Javier narrative, scripting moments to fuel the fans. They staged a romantic dinner by the lake, complete with fairy lights and a string quartet. Javier and I sat across from each other, the table laden with food we barely touched. The cameras lingered as I reached for his hand, my heart pounding. "Tell me something real," I said, ignoring the script. He smiled, his eyes soft. "You make me feel like I can be myself," he said. "Not the bachelor, just me." The moment was perfect, too perfect. The producers cut in, demanding a retake. "More passion," they shouted. I wanted to scream. This wasn't a performance anymore. But Javier played along, his smile tighter each take. When the cameras finally stopped, he leaned close. "I meant every word," he whispered. My breath caught, but before I could respond, Marcus stormed in, accusing us of stealing the spotlight. The argument was staged, but his words stung. Was I just a prop in Javier's story? The next challenge was a future vision date, where we had to plan a life together. Marcus went all out, presenting a vision board of a glamorous LA life with Javier. I kept mine simple: a cozy house in Syracuse, a dog, quiet nights reading by the fire. Javier's eyes lit up when I described it, but the audience wasn't impressed. My polls tanked, and the producers hinted I was on thin ice. "Step it up, Ethan," they warned, "or you're out." I didn't care about the game anymore. I cared about Javier. That night, we snuck away to the lake, the water still under a crescent moon. "I don't want to lose you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, the weight of the past weeks crashing over me. "Then don't," I said. "Choose me. Not for the show, but for real." He looked at me, his eyes wide, and for a moment, I thought he'd say yes. But he pulled back, his face torn. "I can't," he said. "Not yet." The rejection stung, but I saw the fear in his eyes. This wasn't just about the show. It was about him coming to terms with who he was, in front of millions. I wanted to be there for him, but doubt gnawed at me. Was I pushing too hard? Was I reading him wrong? The producers sensed the tension and pounced. They announced a final commitment challenge, where Javier had to give a rose to the person he felt closest to. The ceremony was set for the next day, and the estate buzzed with speculation. Marcus was confident, strutting around like he'd already won. I was a mess, torn between hope and fear. That night, I found Javier in the library, pacing. "I don't know what to do," he said, his voice raw. "This isn't just about the show anymore. It's about my life." I took a step closer, my heart in my throat. "Then make it about your life," I said. "What do you want, Javier? Not the producers, not the audience, you." He looked at me, his eyes glistening. "I want you," he said, so softly I almost missed it. Before I could respond, he closed the distance, his lips brushing mine. The kiss was tentative, then desperate, like we were stealing time from the chaos around us. When we pulled apart, he was shaking. "I'm scared," he admitted, "but I'm tired of pretending." I held him, my heart soaring and breaking at once. We were real, but the show wasn't. Tomorrow, he'd have to choose, and I didn't know if I could survive losing him. Not to Marcus, not to the audience, not to his own fears. The rose ceremony was a spectacle, the grand hall decked out in flowers and candlelight. Javier stood at the front, his face pale under the lights. Marcus and I stood side by side, the tension between us electric. The host dragged out the drama, hyping the audience with teasers about shocking twists. When Javier finally spoke, his voice was steady but raw. "This show was supposed to be a game," he said, "but it's shown me what I really want. Ethan, you've been real from the start. This rose is for you." The crowd erupted, but I barely heard them. Javier handed me the rose, his fingers brushing mine, and I saw the truth in his eyes. He wasn't acting. Marcus stormed off, the cameras chasing him, but Javier and I stood frozen, the world fading around us. "I'm not done with you," he whispered, and I knew he meant it. But the show wasn't over. The producers announced a final twist, a live finale where Javier would propose to his chosen match. The internet went wild, but I felt sick. A proposal? After 7 weeks of scripted chaos? I wanted Javier, but not like this, not as a stunt. That night, I found him by the lake, his face lit by moonlight. "I can't do it," he said. "I can't propose for them." I took his hand, my heart steady for the first time. "Then don't," I said. "Let's walk away. Together." The finale loomed like a storm. The producers were relentless, scripting every moment of the proposal to maximize drama. Javier and I were barely given time alone, the crew hovering like vultures. But we stole moments, a glance during a rehearsal, a whispered "we'll get through this" in a hallway. I clung to those, knowing they were all we had left before the show tried to claim us. The morning of the live broadcast, Javier pulled me into a storage room, away from the cameras. "I'm done," he said, his voice fierce. "I'm not proposing for their ratings. I want us to be real, Ethan, but not like this." My heart leapt, but fear followed. Walking away meant breaking our contracts, risking lawsuits, losing the prize money. But looking into his eyes, I knew I'd follow him anywhere. "Then let's do it," I said. "Let's leave." We planned in whispers, knowing the producers would try to stop us. The finale was set for a grand outdoor stage by the lake, with thousands watching live and millions online. Javier was supposed to propose to me, the winner, under a canopy of stars. Instead, we'd use the moment to take back our story. The broadcast began, the host's voice booming over the crowd. Javier stood beside me, his hand brushing mine, a silent promise. The cameras zoomed in as the host recounted our journey, playing clips of our moments, the poem, the lake, the kiss. The audience cheered, but I felt the weight of their expectations. This wasn't their love story. It was ours. When the host called Javier forward, my heart pounded. He took the stage, the ring box in his hand, and I saw the resolve in his eyes. "Ethan," he began, his voice clear, "this show brought us together, but it doesn't own us. I'm not here to propose for them. I'm here to choose you, outside of all this." He dropped the ring box, the crowd gasping, and reached for my hand. "Let's go," he said. We ran. The producers shouted, the crew scrambled, but we didn't stop. We tore through the estate, past the cameras, to the lake where we'd shared our first real moment. The crowd's cheers faded, replaced by the quiet lapping of water. Javier turned to me, his face lit by moonlight. "I love you," he said, the words raw and true. Not for the show, for real. I kissed him, my heart full, the world finally silent. The aftermath was chaos. The producers threatened legal action, but the audience's reaction saved us. Clips of our escape went viral, fans calling it the realest moment in reality TV history. The show tried to spin it, but the narrative was ours. Javier and I moved to Syracuse, pooling our savings to rent a small apartment. He found work as an architect. I started writing, pouring our story into a novel. It wasn't easy. We faced backlash, online trolls, skeptical friends, our own doubts. But every night, when Javier came home, his smile reminded me why we'd run. We built a life together, not for cameras or contracts, but for us. One evening, by the same lake where we'd escaped, he pulled out a simple silver ring. No audience, no script, just us. "Marry me," he said. I said yes, tears in my eyes, knowing this was the ending we'd fought for. Our story wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And in a world obsessed with spectacle, we found something real, a love that didn't need a stage to shine.